okay, so that you know what you're going after if you're going to get a nice move. All right, but let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for August 30th, 2019. All right, we got the SPY was gapping up, gave back the gains, is now actually down a little bit here. All right, around unchanged, and then the Qs are actually down almost 0.5% here. Also was gapping up, and we got sold. I think I reiterated almost every one of these market wraps that we did a very good job last week, not getting ahead of ourselves, recognizing where resistance is, okay? So I think coming into today, recognizing that we're not going to be bullish until we get over that. Again, you can see the resistance coming in. I do think, we've seen that the weekends, there's quite often a gap coming into Monday. So I'm not surprised that we had a recent kind of move up, and so maybe some traders taking off some risk after getting some gains recently if they played it off the lows here. So we got a little bit of selling going on, nothing too significant. And I think especially when we keep the bigger picture in perspective here, right, where we have gone over the last month, right, very, very choppy sideways. That doesn't mean that we don't do anything, right? Even when we're neutral as a market bias, right, we are still focused on individual names, individual opportunities, right? So let's take a look at some of the plays from this week. Okay, I'll go over all the official calls from me, and then we'll kind of talk about what there was today. This one may be a little bit longer, just of a recap. I just wanted to do this, kind of hopefully if you're new to the room, you saw that, what you got during the free open house, which was a good week, is standard for what we do day in and day out, and just what we look for. And I thought today, this week, just like last week, you saw a good variation in kind of the plays, and we always give you full transparency as far as where we get in and where we get out. Okay, so starting this week, I played the ZGNX. This was an official call here. I think some people passed on it due to spread, which is wise. I think this was a little bit spready. I was playing the slow of the day breakdown, not that different than the FL that we played on the Friday on the day before, where we played a breakdown here as it was basing and played a breakdown. Not actually, even this one, the duration of the base I thought was even better. And so for those that skipped out on this or decided to pass because it did have some spread, I think that was wise. This did get to target. The initial target was 42.90. I think this got to 90 or 85, so it did get to target. But you know what? I got filled 14 cents late, and as it got to target, I wanted to see one more drop just because it wasn't really up as much as it should have been due to the spread. And so, that we ended up trailing this. It wasn't a full loss. We ended up trailing it because it did trail over the hourly. We did get new lows. So that was trailed according to plan. So while we did avoid a full loss, right, I have to recognize here that the reason that this was the difference between a winning play and a losing play was the spread. And I've heard before some people say, oh, the spread doesn't matter. It's hard for me to agree with that. And there may be some situations where the stock moves nice enough to account for the lack of spread. But if spread affects your price where you get in and your price where you get out, what is more important than trading than the price that you get in and the price that you get out? So, for some people, maybe they are better at managing the spread or dealing with the spread or assessing the spread and how it messes up the situation. But I think to me, no matter what, spread matters, okay? And so I thought this was kind of a good example of this. So this was a partial loss here. We did take our trail there. I believe it was over 80, 43.80. You can see this ran up dollars. We had a good discussion on this day. A little bit about kind of trading psychology. Why is it that's so rewarding that when something is working against you that you actually are able to get back, right? And we just can't let that kind of feeling and that kind of feeling of recovery and being a hero when the thing goes against you and takes out your stop, but actually comes back, and maybe it even becomes a profitable play, because for every maybe two of those you'll have one of these, where if you don't get out when you're supposed to, right, you get run over. So yeah, I think this, from at least our exit, ran up $3. So I wasn't looking to flip it or anything, not to play it long, because this was a professional gap breaking support. The bias was lower. Okay, so that was the ZGNX on Monday, and then on Tuesday we got the TME. So the TME was very, very nice. It was a breakdown as well off the lows there. We had a nice little bit of a shakeout right there, a nice battle bar, and then we played underneath this bar with a stop right there. So that was a very nice play there on the TME. Same strategy as the ZGNX, just a lot better follow through, right? And that's what we expect when we go after things that are gapping, that are being watched by larger time frame players. You usually see that because the volume picks up significantly. Right, and you can usually tell that early in the day because the volume starts to come in and flow in right at the open. You'll see it. We expect, the winners to outsize even the full-size losers, which in the case of the ZGNX was not. That was the TME gap. We had a small gap down. Market was gapping up. This had a base, tried to break out, and then failed. We talked a little bit yesterday about failure patterns and how when you get a failure pattern, right, in the opposite direction of what you're looking for, right, that should only confirm your bias. So if we were bearish on this, which we were, showing a lot of weakness, basing at the lows, right, we're not going to play this breakout off the lows. My bias is lower, right? So when I see that immediately fail, then I know, okay, it's time to go. Whoever did try to step up is getting proven wrong, and this is our time to get in. Very, very nice follow through on the TME. Okay. All right. And then the next day, I remember it was a very slow morning. I didn't really like too much. I thought this was a little bit aggressive on the EXPR here, but not too bad. Okay. We played a breakout here. It's showing a lot of strength basing at the highs. Was a gap down initially, flipped the gap. You can see again, volume coming in, wide range bar, right? And if you look at a lot of these too, what did the daily bar do, right? So if I, go back and review at the end of the day and I say, well, if you just told me that this was the daily bar, what do you think the easier way to make money on this would be, right? Long or short, right? And that's why we want to make sure that we let the larger time frames kind of guide us first. Now, I'm not going to know how this is going to turn out, but I know that the daily, the weekly, the monthly are all weak on this, and it's doing a pro gap. Now, in the case of the EXPR, that's the reason I thought this was aggressive. Going up against the trend, I think I got a little bit away with one on this one, honestly. Not something that I want to do too often, okay? Even though it worked, I think it is one that was a little bit on the aggressive side, okay? And then yesterday we did do the BBY, which let's take a look at this daily bar. So yeah, I think the bias on the BBY, based on the gap, based on the break of support, I think was the right thing to do. I don't really have a problem with it. We did get a target one, and then kind of market was staying strong. Is that the reason that the BBY didn't go lower? It's not a big deal. What happened is what happened. We got trailed out. We got stopped out on the back half. So the front half made a little bit, back half stopped out. So that was a break-even play. Right, so you saw a little bit of everything, right? Small winner, big winner, small loser, and a break-even play. I guess the only thing that I didn't have was a full stop out. But yeah, you saw a little bit of everything. I thought from this week, long and short plays. Okay, no calls from me today. But that's because Sammy basically handled pinpointed all the kind of the best stuff here. So he had a nice call in the Ulta this morning. Nice gap down here. Focus is lower. So you look at kind of the market here, and even the market was gapping up this morning. This was gapping down. Right, I think the initial call was under 242.50. Was the initial play here right at the open. So yeah, and then got really, really nice follow through. I think it was a little bit of a big stop, $2.50, but you got plenty of follow through, even with that kind of size stop. So very, very nice. Ulta still sitting at the lows. that was the one to focus on. Really nice call also on the CPB as a long here. This was gapping up, showing a lot of strength, right? I think there was a first call here. It did retest into that support, and then they did an add to it to make it a nicer play there on the CPB. So this was a gap up, okay, and then clearing resistance. So pretty nice follow through on the CPB. And then, yeah, I thought overall this week was kind of quiet, but also just had to be focused. So that's why I kind of want to go over these so you can kind of see where the similarities come in, right? BBY was gapping down. We looked for a breakdown off the lows. EXPR was gapping down and then flipped the gap and then set up a breakout off the highs. Ulta gapping down, breakdown underneath the lows. TME gap down, breakdown underneath the lows. All right, so just a lot of consistency in the approach and in the setup, right? So I thought that kind of just encapsulated kind of the week very well. Why, right, the room does what it does, right? Why we focus on what we focus on, why we look for what we look for, because we're focused on what's going to move a lot, right? What's going to give us an opportunity for a nice play. So, I mean, you look at the size, not necessarily in absolute terms, but even from a percentage basis. Are we going after something that's going to move a lot? Because if you play like the Ulta on these days, yeah, you can probably get some good sized moves. But does that also mean that you're going to have to be very, very precise in picking the top or the bottom in each of these days? You will, right? Whereas in this case, you could be a little bit early in the exit, right? Still have a really nice play. You could be very early in the exit and still have a nice play, right? And so these are the kind of things that we can do over time and still expect to do well and not be kind of run over by losses or constantly being tripped out or, you know, not getting the top or bottom, right? It's a little bit, especially when you're trend following, a little bit less of a requirement, right? So because, you know, as much as we wish we could have the hindsight of always knowing what the top and bottom is going to be, right? We do have to live in and operate within the condition that there is a lot of speculation, and we just have to make our best attempt at it, right? And so the important thing, though, I think from this week is that even though very choppy back and forth kind of market this week, right, that we know what to go after, okay? So for some of you who joined the open house, weren't quite sure if you really wanted to commit to the room or not, you know, hopefully this week you were able to maybe take some of what you learned from the open house, kind of know how to scan for gaps. I know I send a lot of emails out kind of for people asking for guidance on how to kind of set up their scanner and things like that. But something to be aware of is there is a Labor Day sale going on. So maybe you were part of the open house, but you missed the discount during that week. And then this week you kind of felt like you weren't sure if you were getting a full scan, if you were completely aware of all the opportunities that were out there, and kind of were waiting for the next opportunity to maybe get a discount for the room. Look into the Labor Day sale. You should be getting some emails. I'm sure it'll be on the T3 website here. So kind of a second chance if you didn't take advantage of joining the room this week. Okay, I just wanted to put that out there for those of you that maybe were kind of on the fence and then were thinking that maybe, yeah, you would benefit from the additional scanning gaps list and the play calls. Okay. All right. So that's going to do it for today's market wrap. We do have a 3-day weekend, so just be aware that I won't be back until Tuesday. All right, so we'll pick back up on Tuesday and see what the market brings us. Hope you enjoy your long weekend. All right, and stay safe. I will talk to you on Tuesday. Have a good evening, everyone.